Jasmine Williams, a high school star, had everything planned for her Ivy League future, but one shocking secret threatened to destroy it all. Can she rise above, or will her dreams slip away forever? Before we dive into the story, let's do what Sleepless in Seattle taught us. Share where you're listening from. Comment below. The glow of Jasmine's laptop screen illuminates the wall of college brochures tacked above her desk. She squints at her personal statement, the cursor blinking at the end of a sentence about overcoming adversity. The phrase feels hollow now, rehearsed, like something the admissions officers at Princeton have read 1,000 times before. Delete. Start over. Her fingers hover over the keyboard as she studies the brochures. Princeton's Gothic spires and ivy-covered walls stare back at her, promising everything she's worked for since freshman year. The acceptance rate hovers at 5.8%. She memorized the number months ago, lets it drive her forward on nights like this when exhaustion pulls at her bones. Just finish the draft, she mutters, rubbing her eyes. The words blur together on the screen. As the daughter of a single mother. Her phone buzzes with a message from Mia. Done with the Princeton essay? You're so gonna get in. Jasmine's lips curve into a tired smile as she types back. I hope so. This is my ticket out. The truth in those words settles in her chest. A ticket out of their cramped two-bedroom apartment. Out of the whispered conversations about bills she pretends not to hear. Out of the cycle her mother has fought so hard to break. She saves the document and stretches, her spine cracking after hours hunched over the keyboard. The acceptance letters pinned beside the brochures catch her eye. Harvard, Yale, Stanford. All reach schools, but possible. Her GPA and test scores put her in range. The rest comes down to essays like this one. To convincing strangers she deserves a shot at their ivory towers. The cafeteria buzzes with senior year energy. Everyone talking about college applications, acceptance letters, rejection letters. Jasmine picks at her sandwich while Mia and Chris debate the merits of staying local versus going away for school. What's Princeton got that I don't? Chris asks, his tone light, but his eyes serious. He reaches across the table to steal one of Jasmine's chips. A future, she answers with a laugh that doesn't quite reach her eyes. The moment the words leave her mouth, she sees the shadow cross his face. Chris plans to attend community college, work part-time at his dad's auto shop, their paths diverging with each passing day. She starts to backtrack, but Chris waves it off. Nah, you're right. Go get that fancy degree. Just don't forget us, little people. His smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. Mia jumps in with a story about her latest college interview disaster, but Jasmine's attention drifts. She watches Chris pick apart his sandwich, his shoulders slightly hunched. The distance between them grows wider with each acceptance letter, each conversation about future plans. At home, the kitchen light casts harsh shadows across the bills spread over the table. Renee Williams sorts through them with practiced efficiency, her paralegal training evident in the neat stacks and color-coded sticky notes. She looks up when Jasmine enters, exhaustion etched in the lines around her eyes. Any news from Princeton? The hope in her voice makes Jasmine's chest tight. Not yet. Jasmine sets her backpack down carefully. But I'm feeling good about it. Renee's eyes glimmer with unshed tears. You're gonna have the life I never did, baby. The words hang between them, heavy with expectation. Jasmine's gaze drifts to the fridge, to the faded photograph tucked beneath a magnet. 17-year-old Renee cradles newborn Jasmine, her face a mix of terror and determination. The same age Jasmine is now. I gave up a lot, Renee says softly, following Jasmine's gaze, but it was worth it. Jasmine forces a smile, but dread coils in her stomach. The fear of repeating her mother's story, of watching her dreams slip away, lodges in her throat like a stone. Morning brings the familiar chaos, burnt toast smell and Renee's rushed footsteps. Jasmine finds her mother in the kitchen, frantically packing lunches while reviewing case files. We're late again, Renee mutters, shoving papers into her briefcase. Jasmine grabs an apple from the counter, laughing despite herself. I've got it under control, Mom. She watches her mother's precise movements, the way she juggles multiple tasks with practiced desperation. Every morning, a reminder of what Renee sacrificed, what she still gives up to keep their lives running. The school assembly hall fills with proud parents and nervous students. Jasmine's palms sweat as she waits for her name to be called for top honors. When it comes, Renee's applause rings out above the rest, drawing glances from nearby parents. I'm so proud of you. Renee whispers as Jasmine returns to her seat, metal gleaming against her uniform. The weight of the metal feels like lead around her neck. Late night finds them at the kitchen table, calculus homework spread before Jasmine while Renee nurses a cup of coffee. Need help? Renee asks, though they both know Jasmine surpassed her mother's math skills years ago. I've got it. Jasmine scribbles equations, aware of her mother's watchful gaze. You're amazing, you know that? The pride in Renee's voice carries an undercurrent of fear. Jasmine hears the unspoken words, don't make my mistakes. Don't let anything derail your future. I just want you to have choices, Jazz, Renee says softly. I didn't. I will, Mom. I promise. The words taste like ash on her tongue. The first warning signs come during AP biology. Jasmine's head swims as she tries to focus on cell division diagrams. Her hand trembles as she takes notes, the words blurring together on the page. Just stress, she tells herself. Senior year pressure. College applications. Normal teenage anxiety. But in the hallway between classes, Chris catches her rubbing her temples. You okay? He reaches for her arm, concern etching lines around his mouth. Just tired. The lie comes easily now, but guilt gnaws at her stomach. Or maybe that's something else. Chris deserves the truth, but admitting it would make it real, would force her to face what she suspects but can't acknowledge. At dinner, Renee studies Jasmine's face across their small table, the chicken growing cold on Jasmine's barely touched plate. You're not eating much lately, Renee observes. Everything okay? Jasmine pushes a piece of broccoli around her plate. Yeah, just not hungry. Panic flares in her chest. If Renee finds out, if anyone finds out, everything she's worked for could crumble like sand castles in the tide. You know you can talk to me, right? Renee's voice tightens with concern. Jasmine swallows hard. Of course, Mom. The bathroom light feels too bright, too harsh. Jasmine's hands shake as she holds the pregnancy test, purchased from a drugstore 2 towns over where no one knows her name. 3 minutes stretch into eternity. When the second line appears, sharp and clear against the white plastic, Jasmine's heart stops. The world tilts on its axis, everything she's built threatening to shatter. She stares at her reflection in the mirror, tears cutting silent tracks down her cheeks. In her mind, Princeton's gates slam shut. Her mother's proud smile fades to disappointment. All her carefully laid plans dissolve like sugar in rain. I've ruined everything. The test goes deep into the bathroom trash, buried beneath tissues and empty toilet paper rolls, as if hiding the evidence can somehow erase the truth growing inside her. Later, curled on her bed in the dark, Jasmine feels the walls of her room closing in. The college brochures mock her from their neat rows. Her medals and certificates, all that precious proof of her perfect future, seem to whisper of her failure. A soft knock at the door makes her jump. Everything okay? Renee's voice carries through the wood. Jasmine chokes back tears. Yeah, just tired. But the lie sits heavy in her throat, a stone threatening to suffocate her. Outside her door, Renee lingers. Her mother's intuition, honed by 17 years of single parenthood, sensing the fractures in Jasmine's carefully constructed facade. You're not telling me something. The words float through the darkness like a prophecy. Jasmine presses her hands against her still, flat stomach, alone with the weight of her unraveling future. In the silence between heartbeats, she feels it all slipping away. Her dreams, her mother's sacrifices, the carefully plotted path to a better life. Tomorrow, she'll have to face it. Tomorrow, she'll have to make decisions that will reshape her entire world. But tonight, in the darkness of her childhood bedroom, Jasmine Williams lets herself mourn the future she'll never have. The morning sun filters through Jasmine's blinds, casting thin stripes across her Princeton application. She grips her pen until her knuckles whiten, willing the words to flow onto the page. The essay prompt stares back at her. Describe a challenge you've overcome and how it has shaped your perspective. I can do this, she mutters. Her hand moves across the page with practiced confidence, describing her passion for biochemistry, her vision of herself in Princeton's state-of-the-art laboratories. The words flow easily. She's rehearsed this story 1,000 times in her head. This doesn't change anything. The mantra loops in her mind as she writes. I'll figure it out later. She pushes thoughts of the pregnancy test deeper, burying them beneath layers of denial and determination. Her other hand drifts unconsciously to her stomach before she catches herself, jerking it away as if burned. The application form spreads before her like a bridge to another life, one that still feels possible if she just pretends hard enough. Her fingers trace the university's crest at the top of the page. All those hours of AP classes, volunteer work, and extracurriculars, they have to mean something. They have to be enough. The hallway buzzes with senior year energy as Jasmine makes her way to first period. She holds her head high, textbooks clutched to her chest like armor. A group of junior girls whispers and giggles by the water fountain. Are they looking at her? Do they know? Her heart pounds, but she forces her face to remain neutral. Jas! Mia's voice cuts through the noise. She leans against their shared locker, her dark curls wild as always. You're coming to the senior trip meeting at lunch, right? We have to coordinate rooms. Jasmine's stomach lurches at the thought of a class trip months from now, when everything will be different. But she plasters on a smile. Yeah, of course. You're always so put together, Mia says, shaking her head in admiration. How do you do it? The words hit like a physical blow. Jasmine adjusts her backpack strap, buying time. Just gotta stay focused. The lie tastes bitter on her tongue. She feels like a glass statue in a room full of wrecking balls, one slight bump away from shattering. But if she keeps pretending, if she plays her role perfectly, maybe she can hold the pieces together just a little longer. The cafeteria's fluorescent lights seem harsh today, making her head pound. The smell of pizza wafts from the serving line, and Jasmine's stomach rolls. She pushes her tray away, untouched. Not hungry again? Mia asks, concern creeping into her voice. I can't let this ruin everything. Jasmine grips the edge of the table as a wave of nausea passes through her. The walls of her carefully constructed denial begin to crack. Reality seeps in through the fissures, morning sickness, missed period, the undeniable truth growing inside her. That night, she lies in bed staring at her ceiling, counting the glow-in-the-dark stars she stuck there in middle school. The silence feels oppressive, broken only by the distant hum of the refrigerator and her mother's soft footsteps in the hallway. Jasmine presses a hand to her still flat stomach. Tears slide down her temples, disappearing into her hairline. I'll handle it, she whispers to the darkness. I have to. But doubt gnaws at her resolve like rust eating through steel. The leather chair creaks as Jasmine shifts her weight, trying to find a comfortable position. Dr. Caldwell's office smells like coffee and old books. Princeton pennants and framed diplomas line the walls, watching her like judges at a trial. Tell me about your goals, Jasmine. Caldwell's smile is warm, encouraging. She's exactly what Jasmine imagined a Princeton admissions officer would look like. Sharp blazer, elegant gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses that catch the light. Jasmine opens her mouth, but her mind goes blank. Panic swirls inside her chest like smoke. What if they find out? What if I can't do this? The carefully prepared answers she's rehearsed for months dissolve like sugar in rain. Her voice catches. She clears her throat, tries again. I want to study biochemistry. The words feel hollow, disconnected from the girl who dreamed them. And help people. Dr. Caldwell's eyebrow rises slightly. She leans forward, pen poised above her notepad. That's a broad goal. Can you be more specific? Jasmine's palms sweat against the leather armrests. The walls seem to close in, and her vision blurs at the edges. She grips the chair tighter, fighting to stay present. I'm interested in research, developing new treatments. Her voice sounds distant, like it belongs to someone else. The questions continue, each one forcing Jasmine deeper into her lie. Yes, she's ready for Princeton's rigorous academic environment. Yes, she can handle living away from home. Yes, she's prepared to balance academics with extracurriculars. Her stomach churns violently. Bile rises in her throat. Well, Jasmine, Dr. Caldwell says finally, closing her notebook, we'll be in touch. Jasmine stands too quickly. The room spins. Thank you for your time, she manages before rushing out, hand pressed to her mouth. She barely makes it to the bathroom. Knees hit cold tile as she retches into the toilet, her body betraying the truth she's tried so hard to hide. Afterward, she slumps against the stall wall, shame burning hot on her cheeks. The bathroom mirror shows a stranger, pale face, red-rimmed eyes, trembling hands. Get it together, she tells herself, splashing cold water on her face. but her reflection holds a truth she can't wash away. You've been acting weird. Mia's voice echoes in the empty hallway after final bell. She corners Jasmine by their locker, arms crossed. What's going on? Nothing. The word comes out sharper than Jasmine intends. I'm fine. The lie sits heavy between them, adding another brick to the wall Jasmine's building around herself. She wants to tell Mia everything, about the test, about Dr. Caldwell, about the fear that wakes her up at night. But she can't bear to see the disappointment in her best friend's eyes, can't stand to watch another piece of her old life crumble. They walk home in tense silence, Mia's footsteps falling deliberately behind Jasmine's. The distance between them feels wider than the sidewalk. If you won't tell me, I can't help you, Mia says quietly. Jasmine's heart aches. She's pushing away the one person who might understand, but fear keeps her mouth sealed shut. She quickens her pace, leaving Mia and her concern behind. At dinner, Renee watches Jasmine push food around her plate. The kitchen light casts shadows under her mother's eyes, highlighting the worry lines that seem deeper lately. You're not yourself lately. Renee's voice is gentle but firm, the tone she uses in court when she knows she's right. Jasmine's stomach knots. She forces a smile, hating how easily the lies come now. Just school stress. But the cracks in her facade are widening. She can feel her mother's gaze like a spotlight, illuminating all the places where her perfect daughter act is wearing thin. She retreats to her room as soon as she can, closing the door on Renee's concerned expression. The walls feel like they're closing in, college brochures and achievement certificates watching her with accusing eyes. Leaning against the door, Jasmine slides to the floor. The weight of her secrets presses down on her chest until she can barely breathe. Each lie, each deflection, each moment of denial adds another layer of isolation until she's buried alive in her own deception. Chris's car smells like pine air freshener and French fries. The digital clock on the dashboard blinks 7:43 p.m. in harsh red numbers. Jasmine's hands twist in her lap as silence fills the space between them. I'm pregnant. The words burst out like water through a broken dam. She watches Chris's face pale in the dim light from the street lamp. Are you sure? His fingers tighten on the steering wheel until his knuckles turn white. Jasmine nods, tears threatening to spill. Relief and dread war in her chest. Relief at finally saying the words out loud, dread at making them real. We're not ready for this. Chris's voice shakes. He stares straight ahead, not meeting her eyes. We have options, right? The word options hangs between them like smoke. Jasmine wraps her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the car's heater. She'd known this conversation would be hard, but nothing prepared her for the hollow feeling in her chest. I can't do this, Chris whispers, still not looking at her. The words hit harder than a physical blow. Jasmine feels the ground disappear beneath her feet, leaving her floating in a void of her own making. She'd thought telling him would make her feel less alone. Instead, the distance between them stretches wider than ever. She gets out of the car without another word. The night air bites at her cheeks as she walks home, tears blurring the streetlights into golden smears. Her world feels shattered beyond repair, pieces scattered too far to ever gather again. I have to do this on my own. The thought settles in her chest like a stone as she walks through the darkness, one foot in front of the other, carrying the weight of her future alone. The hallway at Lincoln High feels narrower today, the walls pressing in as Jasmine walks to class with her head down. Whispers follow her like shadows, growing louder with each step. A group of girls cluster near the water fountain, their laughter sharp as glass. Kayla Matthews stands at their center, her perfectly lined lips curving into a smirk as Jasmine passes. Guess she's not so perfect after all, Kayla stage whispers, loud enough to carry. Heat crawls up Jasmine's neck. Her fingers tighten around her textbook until her knuckles ache. They know, or they think they know. The carefully constructed walls of her secret crumble a little more with each passing period, each whispered conversation that stops when she enters a room. She slips into the bathroom between classes, splashing cold water on her face. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows under her eyes, making the exhaustion impossible to hide. Her reflection stares back, a stranger wearing her face. How much longer can I keep pretending? At home, The scratch of pencil against paper fills her room as Jasmine attempts calculus homework. The numbers swim before her eyes, refusing to make sense. A shadow falls across her desk. "You've been quiet lately." Renee's voice comes from the doorway, careful and measured. "And your teachers say you've been distracted. What's going on, Jasmine?" Jasmine's hand trembles as she writes another equation. "Nothing, Mom. Just a lot on my plate." Renee's face tightens, worry etching deeper lines around her mouth. I hope you're being honest with me." The pencil snaps in Jasmine's grip. Guilt claws at her throat, threatening to choke her. Each lie builds the wall between them higher, brick by terrible brick. Her mother's trust, the one thing she's never had to question, slips through her fingers like water. The next morning in history class, Jasmine stares at her notebook without seeing it. Mr. Chen's lecture about the Civil War fades to white noise. Sweat beads along her hairline despite the room's chill. Her hands won't stop shaking. A sharp elbow jabs her side. Kayla leans close, her perfume cloying and sweet. "You okay, Jazz? You look like you're going to be sick again." Panic surges through Jasmine's veins like ice water. The room tilts sideways. She grips the edge of her desk, trying to anchor herself in place. How much does Kayla know? How long until everyone knows? The walls feel like they're closing in, the air growing thinner with each breath. She counts the minutes until the bell, until she can escape. But there's nowhere left to run. English class arrives like an execution. Students file in, chattering about their future plans, presentations. Jasmine's note cards tremble in her sweaty palms. She's rehearsed this speech a dozen times. Her goals, her dreams, her carefully plotted path to Princeton. "Jasmine Williams," Mr. Davis calls, "you're up next." She rises on unsteady legs. The walk to the front of the room stretches endless as a desert. Behind her, a throat clears dramatically. "Hey, Mr. Davis?" Kayla's voice drips with false innocence. Maybe Jasmine should talk about her real future plans, like becoming a mom. The room falls silent. 20 pairs of eyes lock onto Jasmine. Mr. Davis's brow furrows in confusion. "Oops." Kayla's smile turns razor sharp. Guess that was supposed to be a secret. The note cards slip from Jasmine's numb fingers, scattering across the floor like fallen leaves. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, deafening in the silence. Her vision blurs with tears she refuses to let fall. They all know. It's over. Her knees threaten to buckle. The room spins lazy circles around her as whispers erupt like wildfire. Through the roar in her ears, she hears Mr. F. Davis calling for order, but it's too late. Her secret lies exposed and bleeding on the classroom floor. The final bell rings like a death knell. Jasmine walks out of school on legs that don't feel like her own. Her mother's car idles in the parking lot, Renee's face pale and stricken behind the wheel. Word travels fast in small towns. The drive home stretches silent as a grave. Jasmine watches familiar streets blur past, wondering if this is what drowning feels like. When they pull into the driveway, Renee's hands stay locked on the steering wheel. "Tell me it's not true." Her mother's whisper cracks like thin ice. Jasmine's voice breaks. "I'm sorry, Mom." Renee's face contorts with grief. Tears spill down her cheeks, carving paths through carefully applied makeup. "After everything I warned you about, how could you?" Each word strikes like a physical blow. The disappointment in her mother's eyes, the very thing Jasmine has spent 17 years trying to avoid, cuts deeper than any knife. That night, Jasmine lies on her bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars she stuck to her ceiling in middle school. Her phone buzzes endlessly with messages from Mia and Chris, but she can't bring herself to look. She curls into herself, tears soaking her pillow until it feels heavy as stone. The truth spreads through her body like poison. She is utterly alone. Her secret is out, her mother's trust shattered, her friends distant as stars. "I've lost everything." Morning arrives like a funeral. Jasmine shuffles into the kitchen, but Renee doesn't look up from her coffee. The silence weighs tons. "I'm going to work." Renee's voice could freeze flame. "Mom, please talk to me." Jasmine hates how her voice trembles, how young she sounds. Renee stands, her expression a mask of hurt and disappointment. "I don't know what to say right now." She leaves without another word. The warmth of her love feels like a distant memory, replaced by this Arctic chill. "I've ruined everything." At school, Mia waits by Jasmine's locker, arms crossed tight over her chest. Her usual smile is nowhere to be found. "Why didn't you tell me?" The hurt in Mia's voice cuts like glass. Jasmine studies the floor, unable to meet her best friend's eyes. I didn't know how. I thought we told each other everything. Tears well in Mia's eyes. She turns and walks away, leaving Jasmine standing alone in the crowded hallway. The loneliness closes in like quicksand. With each person who turns away, Jasmine sinks deeper. I pushed everyone away. After the final bell, Chris finds her in the parking lot. His hands are shoved deep in his pockets, shoulders hunched against the autumn wind. I don't know if I can do this, he admits, eyes fixed on the cracked pavement. Jasmine nods, a tear sliding down her cheek. I get it. He walks away without looking back. Jasmine watches him go, knowing with bone-deep certainty that she's on her own now. The future stretches before her, vast and terrifying as an open sea. She climbs into her car, hands steady on the wheel despite the trembling in her chest. The Princeton brochure on her passenger seat seems to mock her, with its promises of ivory towers and endless possibilities. She crumples it into a ball and throws it in the back seat. Time to face reality. Time to figure out what comes next. Alone. The silence stretches between them like a physical thing, broken only by Jasmine's ragged breathing. She presses her back against her bedroom door, sliding down until she hits the carpet. Her legs give out as the weight of everything. The whispers in the hallway, the pitying looks from teachers, her mother's devastation, crashes over her like a wave. A stuffed giraffe catches her eye from the corner, dusty and forgotten. Mr. Spots. She'd carried him everywhere as a child, back when the world made sense, when the worst thing that could happen was a scraped knee or a missed dessert, before she became another statistic, another cautionary tale. The sobs come without warning, tearing through her chest. She clutches Mr. Spots to her stomach, burying her face in his worn fur. The tears soak through, hot and endless. Jasmine? Her mother's voice cracks through the door. Please open up. We need to talk. The concern in Renee's voice only makes it worse. Jasmine's shoulders shake as another wave hits. I can't do this, Mom. The words scrape her throat raw. Yes, you can. Renee's palm flat against the door. But not alone. Please let me in. Something in her mother's voice, not disappointment or anger, just love, reaches through Jasmine's walls. She drags herself up, legs trembling, and turns the lock. Renee sits on the edge of Jasmine's bed, the mattress dipping beneath her weight. The lines around her eyes seem deeper tonight, carved by years of worry. She pats the space beside her. Come here, baby. Jasmine sinks onto the bed, still clutching Mr. Spots. The childhood comfort feels both ridiculous and necessary. When I found out I was pregnant with you, Renee begins, her voice soft, I was terrified. She takes Jasmine's hand, her fingers warm and steady. I felt like my life was over, like I'd ruined everything. The words hit Jasmine like a physical blow. She tries to pull away, but Renee holds on. But I made choices out of fear, Renee continues. I pushed people away, tried to handle everything alone, and I don't want that for you. Jasmine's voice comes out barely above a whisper. I don't know how to do this. You don't have to do it alone. Renee squeezes her hand. That's what I'm trying to tell you. For the first time, Jasmine really looks at her mother, not as the stern paralegal or the disappointed parent, but as someone who once sat on a bed just like this, terrified of the future. The realization hits her. Her mother isn't just an authority figure, she's a roadmap. The kitchen light buzzes overhead as they spread papers across the table. College brochures, medical pamphlets, insurance forms. The magnitude of it all threatens to overwhelm Jasmine again, but Renee's steady presence anchors her. Local university might be better, Renee says carefully, sliding a brochure forward. That way I can help with childcare while you're in classes. The words local university would have felt like failure a few months ago. Now they taste like possibility. Jasmine runs her fingers over the glossy pages, imagining a different future than the one she'd planned. Not worse, just different. We can make this work, Renee says, and for the first time, Jasmine believes her. The fluorescent lights of the math classroom flicker like Morse code, sending stabbing pains through Jasmine's temples. Numbers swim across her test paper, refusing to stay still. She grips her pencil harder, willing the equations to make sense. Her free hand drifts to her stomach, still flat beneath her sweater. Morning sickness hits hardest in the afternoon, a cruel irony that makes focusing impossible. The bell rings before she's finished half the problems. Jasmine. Mr. Thompson's frown deepens as she hands in her incomplete test. This isn't like you. Are you sure you're okay? She forces a nod, but tears threaten at the corners of her eyes. The classroom door has never seemed so far away. The hallway offers no refuge. Whispers follow her like shadows, punctuated by meaningful looks and badly concealed pointing. Kayla Marshall's voice cuts through the noise, sharp as broken glass. Guess Ivy League dreams don't mix with diapers. Jasmine keeps walking, shoulders hunched, but the words burrow under her skin like splinters. Each step feels heavier than the last. Her carefully constructed future crumbles with every whisper, every sideways glance. The couch cushions swallow her whole when she gets home. She stares at the ceiling, mind blank, body hollow. The weight of expectations, her own, her mother's, the world's, presses down like concrete. Renee's keys jingle in the lock. She takes one look at Jasmine's face and drops to her knees in front of the couch. Talk to me. The words spill out before Jasmine can stop them. I can't keep up. Maybe I should just give up on school. No. Renee's voice cuts through the fog of despair. You are stronger than this moment, Jasmine. You're allowed to struggle, but you're not allowed to quit. Tears slip down Jasmine's temples, disappearing into her hair. But beneath the despair, something else flickers. The love in her mother's eyes reflects back a strength Jasmine had forgotten she possessed. Morning light paints shadows across her desk, highlighting the note from Renee. Simple words in her mother's precise handwriting. I believe in you. We'll figure this out together. Jasmine traces the letters with her fingertip. The words settle in her chest like stones in a river, solid, unmovable. She pulls her textbooks closer, uncaps her highlighter, one problem at a time. One page at a time, the quiet resolve builds with each breath. The library smells like old books and possibility. Mia sits alone at their usual table, head bent over her notebook. Jasmine's heart pounds as she approaches. I messed up, she says quietly. By shutting you out, I need my best friend. Mia looks up, eyes soft with understanding. I've been waiting for you to say that. We'll get through this together, okay? Mia's smile feels like sunrise after endless night. The hallway stretches before her like a gauntlet. Kayla's snicker echoes off the lockers as Jasmine passes. But this time, something shifts inside her. The familiar shame hardens into something else. Determination. Jasmine stops, turns, lifts her chin. I'm still going to graduate, she says, voice steady. And I'm going to be a great mom. Your opinion doesn't change that. Surprise flickers across Kayla's face, but Jasmine doesn't wait for a response. She walks away, spine straight, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. The future isn't what she planned, but it's hers to shape, one step at a time. The hospital room smells of antiseptic and sweat. Jasmine grips the sheets, her knuckles white against the sterile fabric. Another contraction builds, stealing her breath. The pain crescendos, and she reaches blindly for her mother's hand. You're doing great, baby, Renee whispers, her voice steady even as worry etches lines around her eyes. Just breathe through it. Chris hovers on the other side of the bed, his face pale under the harsh fluorescent lights. His hand trembles as he wipes Jasmine's forehead with a damp cloth. The gesture is clumsy but gentle, and something in Jasmine's chest tightens at his determination to help. The contraction peaks. Jasmine closes her eyes, counting breaths like her mother taught her. 1, 2, 3. The pain ebbs slowly, leaving her exhausted. Almost there, the nurse says, checking monitors. The baby's heart rate is perfect. Perfect. The word echoes in Jasmine's mind. Nothing about this is perfect. Not the timing, not the circumstances, not the way her carefully planned future derailed 9 months ago. But as another contraction builds, she feels a fierce sort of clarity cutting through the pain. Push, the doctor commands. Push now, Jasmine. She bears down, channeling months of fear and determination into this moment. Renee's grip tightens, anchoring her. Chris whispers encouragement she can barely hear over the rushing in her ears. Then, a cry pierces the air, sharp, new, alive. Tears stream down Jasmine's face as the nurse places her daughter in her arms, tiny fingers, dark curls, eyes squeezed shut against the bright world. She's beautiful, Chris whispers, his voice thick, just like you. Renee leans close, pressing her lips to Jasmine's temple. You did it, baby. I'm so proud of you. Jasmine traces her daughter's features with trembling fingers. Fear and joy collide in her chest, along with an overwhelming sense of responsibility. This tiny person depends entirely on her. The weight of it steals her breath more than any contraction. "Hi, Amelia," she whispers. The name feels right on her tongue, strong but graceful, like she hopes her daughter will be. A month later, Jasmine's world has narrowed to the rhythm of new motherhood. Days blur together in an endless cycle of feeding, changing, and studying. She cradles Amelia in one arm while flipping through her calculus textbook with the other, determined not to fall behind. Exhaustion claws at her edges, dark circles shadow her eyes, and sometimes she catches herself swaying even when she's not holding the baby. But giving up isn't an option. She will graduate, for herself, for Amelia, for her mother, who never got the chance. The coffee shop feels surreal after weeks of isolation. Jasmine watches Mia approach their table, Amelia sleeping peacefully in the stroller beside her. Her old friend's steps are hesitant, her smile uncertain. "I'm sorry I wasn't there for you," Mia says softly, sliding into the seat across from Jasmine. Jasmine reaches across the table, squeezing Mia's hand. "I missed you." The words hang between them, heavy with months of silence and hurt. But as Mia's fingers tighten around hers, Jasmine feels something loosen in her chest. Trust takes time to rebuild, but this moment, this is a start. That night, Amelia's cry pulls Jasmine from a fitful sleep. She stumbles to the crib, lifting her daughter with practiced movements. As she rocks Amelia back to sleep, moonlight spills through the window, painting silver patterns on the wall. Jasmine stares at the stars, feeling the solid weight of her daughter against her chest. The future still terrifies her sometimes, but she's learning to face it one day at a time. "I can do this," she thinks. "We can do this." Morning brings chaos and sunshine in equal measure. Jasmine stands before her mirror, adjusting her graduation cap with trembling fingers. The gown falls differently over her post-pregnancy body, but she lifts her chin, refusing to feel shame. Renee appears in the doorway, pride shining in her eyes. "You look perfect," she says, stepping forward to adjust Jasmine's tassel. Chris arrives minutes later, dressed in his best clothes. His tie is slightly crooked, but his eyes are clear and determined. "Ready?" he asks. Jasmine takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. This is it. Her moment, not the one she planned, but perhaps the one she needed. The drive to school passes in charged silence. Jasmine watches familiar streets blur past, remembering all the mornings she drove this route dreaming of Princeton. Those dreams feel like they belong to a different person now. The auditorium buzzes with excitement. Families fill the seats, cameras flash, and the air feels electric with possibility. When the principal announces Jasmine as the commencement speaker, a ripple of whispers moves through the crowd. Her hands tremble as she climbs the steps to the podium. The faces before her swim into focus. Her mother in the front row, tears already gathering in her eyes. Chris sitting tall, his pride evident even from here. Mia a few rows back, offering an encouraging smile. They don't know everything, Jasmine thinks, gripping the podium, but they're about to. Her voice shakes on the first words, but she finds her rhythm. The speech she prepared feels both rehearsed and raw, truth bleeding through carefully chosen words. "This wasn't the senior year I planned," she says, her voice carrying clear and strong. "I made mistakes, I was scared, but I'm here because I chose to fight for my future and for my daughters." She meets her mother's eyes, drawing strength from Renee's unwavering gaze. "My mom taught me that strength doesn't mean never falling. It means getting back up." Pride rises in her chest, displacing the shame that's lived there for months. This is her story, her truth. Not a cautionary tale, but a testament to resilience. The silence when she finishes stretches for a heartbeat. Then two. On the third, applause erupts like thunder. It starts in pockets and swells until the whole auditorium rings with it. Renee wipes tears from her cheeks. Chris beams, his eyes full of admiration. Mia stands, cheering loudly enough to be heard over the crowd. As Jasmine steps away from the podium, the audience rises to their feet. The sound fills every empty space in her heart, drowning out the whispers of doubt that have haunted her for months. After the ceremony, Renee wraps Jasmine in a fierce hug. Tears stream down her face, but her smile is radiant. "I was so scared for you," she whispers against Jasmine's hair. "But you are so much stronger than I ever was." Jasmine holds her mother tighter. "I learned from the best." Chris approaches cautiously, hands stuffed in his pockets. He glances at Amelia, sleeping peacefully in Renee's arms, then meets Jasmine's eyes. I might not always know what I'm doing, he admits, but I want to be there for her, for both of you. Jasmine nods, a small smile tugging at her lips. We'll figure it out together. The words feel like a promise, not of romance rekindled, but of something equally valuable. A partnership built on shared responsibility and mutual respect. Mia crashes into them like a whirlwind, throwing her arms around Jasmine. You did it, Jas. I'm so proud of you. Jasmine laughs through her tears, holding her friend close. I couldn't have done it without you. The truth of it settles in her chest. The friendships she thought were lost have been rebuilt, stronger for having weathered the storm. Later, in her bedroom, Jasmine carefully folds tiny clothes into a suitcase. College brochures still line her walls, but different ones now. Local universities with strong science programs and on-campus childcare. Renee appears in the doorway, watching Jasmine pack with a soft smile. Ready for your next adventure? More than ever, Jasmine says, determination lighting her face. She picks up a framed photo from her desk, herself and Amelia, taken right after the birth. Their first moment together, both of them exhausted but fighting. Survivors. We're going to be just fine, she whispers to her daughter's image. Outside the graduation venue, Jasmine steps into the sunshine. Amelia snuggles against her chest, and Renee's hand rests warm on her back. The future stretches before them, uncertain but full of possibility. Jasmine takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past year lift from her shoulders. She is no longer defined by expectations or mistakes. Her life is hers to shape, one day at a time. Amelia coos softly, and Jasmine smiles. They walk forward together, 3 generations of Williams women, each carrying their own dreams but supporting each other's journey. The path ahead may not be the one Jasmine planned, but it's hers, and that's enough. Thank you so much for watching and listening to our story. Your time and support mean the world to us. If this video resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Your engagement helps us grow and continue sharing meaningful stories. See you in the next video.